You're listening to The Whole Truth, a Resources Rising Stars podcast.
The Whole Truth podcast is back for 2024. I'm Paul Armstrong and I'm delighted to be back behind the microphone to bring you some of the hot stories that we see unfolding throughout the course of this year. We had a great year last year, some fantastic discussions with people who made real action for investors. That's what The Whole Truth is all about, and we're off to a cracking start. This first episode for 2024 comes courtesy of Legacy Minerals. Chris Byrne is a young geologist who's absolutely hit the ground running. Legacy has 3 great lumps of land in the Lachlan Fold Belt in New South Wales. It's a very desirable residence for exploration, and the company did very well to put its foot on these properties. It has drilling programs planned in 2 places, assays pending in another, and notably one of the porphyry targets is being supported and funded in part by S2 Resources. S2, of course, being the company of Mark Bennett, the famed geologist behind the likes of the Sirius success story in Western Australia, among others, some years ago. Chris has given us an outline of why they like these targets and, most importantly, what they're doing to unlock the value. I hope you'll enjoy this, along with the other episodes we have lined up for you throughout the course of this year. Chris, contrary to the name Legacy Minerals, this is actually quite a new company, isn't it?
Yeah, g'day Paul. Yeah, it's a fresh, 2 years since our IPO in 2021, so in September. So we're a new company and a pretty, young board and management team. But a lot of our projects do have, we're based in Lachlan Fold Belt, so a traditional history of exploration. But we really are presenting some compelling new greenfields opportunities that haven't been really tested or put to market before.
Now, as you mentioned, you're focused on the Lachlan Fold Belt. It's a pretty hot spot in New South Wales. How did you come to get your foot on such great lumps of land in what is a very desirable exploration area?
Yeah, it's a great question. We started Legacy Minerals in 2017, and back then there wasn't as much interest or attention in the Lachlan Fold Belt. So what that presented for us as two 27-year-olds was an opportunity to start pegging ground. So all of our projects, including our most recent one with S2, they've been pegged as zero cost, free acquisitions. So we really saw an opportunity in this space that's, I guess, now been realised by a lot of other companies and even a lot of other majors that have really increased their positions in New South Wales, is that, we ended up with a great foothold in the belt and in the district where we currently now sit.
Okay, so within Legacy and within the Fold Belt, you have several projects. Perhaps you can take us through what you consider to be your number one target. People listening to this podcast will say, oh, that's great, they've got lumps of land in the Lachlan Fold Belt, that's all very good. What is the number one project that you think is going to drive shareholder value?
Yeah, and that's another really good question, because we don't necessarily like to have a flagship asset. We view exploration really from a business perspective, and it comes down to probability and numbers. So we do present, 3 key projects as being our focus, and they're our low sulphidation epithermals. We've got Black Range, Bullura and Drake. And Bullura, we've got a JV with Newmont. We're going to be drilling across those this year, as well as drilling under the S2 at Glen Logan. And what we're trying to do is get as many irons in the fires as possible, just knowing that the more opportunities we can present to shareholders in terms of that discovery upside, the greatest, chance that we're going to sort of hit, what we're targeting are tier 1 type discoveries, porphyries, large low sulphidation epithermals.
Well, let's break those up. So there's 3 main project areas within the Lachlan Fold Belt holding that Legacy has. Well, let's look at them in isolation, Chris, so that investors can get some sort of feel for what it is that you're trying to achieve. So the Black Range project, let's start with that. I mean, you've got a little target in there, or a big target known as Sugar Bag. It's a gold-silver epithermal target. You're preparing for a drilling program there, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So we raised $3 million at the end of last year and just sort of wrapped up our entitlement offer. That's a really compelling target. We've done the groundwork, the geochemistry that's identified that as highly anomalous. And, we touched on, I guess, a bit of the Legacy name. That's a project which hasn't had any on-ground exploration since Newcrest walked off it in 1992. So we've really seen a fundamental shift in, I guess, the understanding of these systems, the prospectivity and their recognition in New South Wales. And it ties quite well into the other project, Bullura, because Black Range and Bullura, we've got the JV with Newmont that we signed last year, but they're located about 65 kilometres apart from each other down in that Cootamundra region of New South Wales. And so we're quite excited about those two because there's a lot of parallels between our Newmont and Bullura project and Black Range, same age, same rock groups. And just to emphasise the scale at Black Range, it's roughly 3 times the size of the Bullura project that we've got under joint venture. So it's a huge district scale control.
So one of the majors walked off Black Range, 30 odd years ago. People would say, well, if they can't find anything, why would you?
Yeah, and it is a good question. They walked off it when that's the year that Cadia was discovered. And I think most people would probably walk away from virtually everything else you're doing if you've uncovered, Australia's best gold mine and one of the world's best operational assets. So just because the majors have had a crack and it sort of lends itself to Glenlogan, the technology that they had available in the 90s and late 80s is nowhere near what we can see these days. So that's from a geochemical resolution, when you think about assays, the cost of assaying back then, but also geophysics. And that was really the opportunity that we saw, and we're going to be hopefully realising that potential with Mark drilling Glenlogan, is that Rio thought it was too deep, 800 metres in 1994. They didn't want to give it a crack, but we went back and reprocessed the magnetics. And what we found there was essentially that this body that we're interpreting to be a porphyry sits closer to 450, 500 metres from surface. And that's just due to an improvement in that inversion model. So companies that have walked away have left the door open for that reprocessing, reinterpretation that has really delivered some great targeting results for us.
So when do you start drilling at Black Range?
Yeah, that's imminent. We're planning to get the campaign underway this quarter. Everything's in place in terms of, I guess, the targets, where we want to go. It's just about the logistics, getting out on the ground. We've also wrapping up quite a busy period at Bullura in terms of geophysics and geochem. So once that those programs wrap up, we'll look to start drilling there imminently. And results, we were expected to come before the middle of the year.
So what's the distance between Black Range and Bullura? I mean, obviously both in the belt, but it's not a small area.
No, 65 k's, which in the scheme or the scale of the Lachlan Fold Belt is relatively close. But that's just, it does sort of demonstrate that the sheer size of New South Wales and Australia in general, and that people often think that what's more to be found here. Everyone's looked at the Lachlan Fold Belt for a long period of time, but we're getting on properties, we're getting on ground that has literally had no exploration ever done whatsoever. And so it's quite incredible.
So moving from Black Range to Bullura, so you're about to start drilling at Black Range, but in the meantime, there's assays pending at Bullura from work you did last year, is that right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so we drilled a maiden campaign there with Newmont at the Breccia Cinta prospect, and we're expecting the assays to come imminently for that. But importantly, what we saw in the drill core and the observations from the drilling there was textures that confirm our model that we've got a preserved low sulfidation epithermal system. So that's really important when you then multiply the scale of the vein field that's yet to be tested there and the opportunity that we see for some serious growth in that project.
So you drilled 3 holes, assays due within weeks?
Correct, yeah. February, early March is what we're targeting.
Right. So in terms of news flow, investors would say to you, well, Chris, okay, assays are pending there. Those 3 holes could be a game changer, couldn't they?
Yeah, correct. And exploration is a patience game as well. And really what that JV with Newmont gives us the opportunity to continually drill that project. And so, we're looking at often these discovery journeys in these types of systems. If you think of the South American models, they can be quite drawn out and expensive, but the rewards can be pretty enormous when you look at, Sierra Negra as a great example, targeting 500,000 ounces per annum production under Newmont sort of ownership. So we're very happy in that partnership in that we'll have multiple drill campaigns at Bullura alone this year, which gives us, again, those multiple share price catalysts for our shareholders.
Now, moving to the third one, you mentioned the Glen Logan project, also in the Lachlan Fold Belt. Tell us about the arrangements you've got there, because that's another farm out arrangement you've got with S2.
Yeah, so we had that grant granted in November last year, and to sort of secure a JV partner like S2, the following January is quite an incredible turnaround, and we think it's a fantastic opportunity to work with such a good group of explorers. Obviously, Mark Creasy is a major shareholder, but under Dr. Mark Bennett's guidance, they've delivered some serious discoveries and delivered some serious wealth for shareholders. So we're really excited to test that. They're mandated to drill that within 12 months. So we're doing, we've got the model, we've got the target, and it's quite a binary sort of opportunity there. We're testing a new greenfields porphyry district. It's 55k south of Cadia. So again, we talked about Cadia, 50 million ounces, 10 million tonnes copper, Australia's largest gold mine, and now one of Newmont's best assets in their global portfolio. So the size of the prize is big, and I guess the value that we see in the cost to drill it being relatively low. So we think it's going to be a great opportunity for us.
Now, S2, you talked about Mark Bennett. He was, of course, the driving force behind the great Sirius discovery in the Fraser Range some years ago. He's a highly credentialed and widely recognised geologist. He's very hot and sweaty about this Glen Logan target, isn't he?
Yeah, he likes it. And I think that porphyry copper gold targets, copper, we're very long on gold and copper in our portfolio in the Lachlan Fold Belt. So we sort of stayed the course and kept away from the distractions that might have come from looking at lithium projects or other transition metals projects, and we've positioned ourselves with these fantastic drill targets. And I guess that he's probably just as excited as we are, because it hasn't been tested. It's compelling. The magnetic modelling that we've done on the body, we've used Cadia as the reference for that, and it's a good fit. So we're excited. We know that this district can host these major deposits. When you think about North Parks, just purchased recently by Evolution, it's a hot space.
Chris, take us through the next steps at Glen Logan. What happens in terms of testing these theories and the evidence that you've got so far?
Yeah, so the next step is really, we'll look at potentially doing some ground geophysics, but it is a drill-ready target. And that's what I guess is quite exciting about it. There's not a whole lot of work that needs to go into defining the target to know, whether we're looking at, a porphyry-related intrusive body. And, the structure of the JV is done in such a way that by the end of that 6 mil spend, which is get done in a relatively quick time frame, we should really know, I guess, the size of the prize there. So it'll be initial drill campaigns this year, and then potential follow-ups based off what we sort of see from those the early core. And they'll be quite deep holes, so we'd be expecting to be pushing the drill rod down to sort of 800 metre odd depths. And if we keep seeing a good-looking, interesting core, we'll keep drilling it deeper.
So you've got plenty of action, Chris. I mean, people buy shares in small exploration companies like this on the basis that the company is going to do something. It's caveat emptor. You're going to drill holes. It's greenfields exploration. It may or may not come in. Of course, if it does, it can be absolutely life-changing. But the most important thing is that the company's doing something. Well, you've got drilling programs coming up. You've got assays pending. No one could say that you're not pedalling pretty fast on the wheel.
Yeah, we like to work hard for our shareholders. We're big shareholders in the company, and again, we sort of see the successful companies like Sirius are the ones that are continually bringing great projects into the portfolio, great targets, and then testing those. So to be successful, you need to be active, and you need to be actively drilling as well.
How tight is your register? What do the top 20 you speak for?
Yeah, so top 20, all the board of management are in top 20 and quite active even in the last placement. So it's quite a tight register. Cumulus Wealth from down in Melbourne are big shareholders and big supporters of the stock. So it's quite a small, tight register. And we've really sort of got people on the register that are, I guess, long-term believers in the fundamental business-based exploration approach. So, although we drill targets that, speculators would love to sort of see the result on, we're very much focused on these compelling opportunities that present not only that near-term upside, but the longer-term view that, we're going to be hopefully delivering more than one successful exploration discovery.
You have got some believers, there's no doubt about it. Having someone of the quality of Mark Bennett in your corner as a disciple is not to be underestimated.
No, and he's a great supporter. I think if you look at the top 20 share register as well, through the recent placement, you'll probably see his family office up there as well. So there's a lot of people that believe not only in the individual projects through joint ventures like Newmont. They're not on the register, but they certainly believe in the prospectivity of the projects we generate. So we see it as quite a good, well-balanced company from the perspective of strong registrar, good cash in hand, but also these great partnerships that give us this alternative funding model, which in this current market has been a really, really good strategy for us in terms of maintaining value for our shareholders when it's been a tough time for a lot of other explorers out there.
Chris, it sounds like a very attractive exploration play on several fronts. As I keep saying, you've got multiple plans of attack here. The news flow was obviously going to be pretty strong, and any of those projects have clearly got potential to be company makers. So I suspect we might be having a chat again in a couple of months' time to see how things have unfolded. You might say how they've unfolded in the Lachlan Fold Belt.
True, and it is going to be an exciting sort of 6 months for the company, building on the work that we've done last year. So very much looking forward to looping back at some point.
I reckon we're going to put you in the diary for a catch-up in a couple of months. Thanks very much for your time, Chris.
Thanks very much again.
You've been listening to The Whole Truth, a Resources Rising Stars podcast, produced by Resource Media, hosted by Paul Armstrong for Reed Corporate. Please note that Reed Corporate does not provide investment advice, and investors should seek personalised advice before making any investment decisions.